All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to strap into the cockpit for what is, no joke, one of the most dangerous missions in all of aviation. We're talking about flying a C-130 Hercules straight into a wildfire. A fire so big it actually creates its own weather.
Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. That's the reality for these pilots. What they're flying into, it isn't just a little smoke and heat. No, it's a living, breathing storm system that was born from the inferno on the ground, and it has enough power to literally tear a military transport plane right out of the sky.
So, how in the world does a fire get big enough to build its own thunderstorm? Well, it's a phenomenon called pyroconvection, and it is the main villain of our story here. This is nature at its absolute most violent, and these pilots have to fly right into the heart of it. And the physics behind this are just wild. It all kicks off with this massive updraft of superheated air, basically a giant chimney of hot gas shooting thousands of feet into the sky. Then you've got winds at different altitudes ripping at this column, creating these tornadic fire vortices. This whole column just punches through the atmosphere, forming what's called a pyrocumulonimbus cloud, a fire-breathing thundercloud. But just like any thunderstorm, it eventually collapses. And when it does, it creates these incredibly violent downdrafts and microbursts that just slam everything downwards.
It's a genuinely terrifying thought, right? The very air you're flying through is actively trying to destroy you. So that brings up the big question for aerial firefighting. How do you even start to fight a force of nature on this scale? Well, you're going to need a very special aircraft and some really specialized gear. And the solution is this amazing combination of a legendary aircraft and a brilliant piece of engineering called MAFFS. This system is exactly what turns a good old workhorse transport plane into an elite, frontline fighter.
You know, there's a reason the C-130 Hercules is the plane for this job. And it's not just because it's big. Its massive wing loading, that's the ratio of its weight to its wing area, makes it incredibly stable in violent air. It's got redundant hydraulic systems, so if one gets knocked out, the pilot still has full control. And those powerful turboprop engines, they can give you instant changes in thrust, which is absolutely critical when you need to escape one of those downdrafts. This plane was literally built to survive.
And this is the real game changer. MAFFS stands for Modular Airborne Firefighting System. The absolute genius of it is right there in that first word, modular. It's a self-contained unit that crews can just roll on to any standard C-130, lock it down, and boom. In just a few hours, a cargo plane is now a world-class air tanker.
The capability here is just staggering. This system can unleash 3,000 gallons of fire retardant. That's 27,000 pounds of liquid in less than 5 seconds. That kind of speed is absolutely essential for creating an effective fire line on the ground.
And the system has gotten way better over time. The original MAFFS, you actually had to fly with the rear cargo door open, with these two nozzles spraying out the back. You can imagine the mess. Retardant just blew back all over the plane and the crew. The modern MAFFS 2, though, is completely self-contained. It uses a single nozzle that extends out a side paratrooper door. It's safer, it's way cleaner, and a whole lot more efficient.
Okay, so we've got the plane, we've got the system. Now let's get into the main event, the heart of the mission itself. The moment where skill, engineering, and just sheer nerve all have to come together, the drop run.
But here's something you absolutely have to understand. No matter how tough that C-130 is, it never, ever goes into that firestorm by itself. Every single drop is a carefully choreographed dance between the tanker and a much smaller, nimbler aircraft.
That would be the lead plane, and it's usually flown by a civilian pilot from the U.S. Forest Service. Think of them as the eye in the sky. They fly out ahead of the massive C-130, testing the winds, scouting for hazards like power lines that might be hidden in all that smoke, and figuring out the exact heading and altitude for the drop. They find the safest possible path through all that chaos, and then they guide the big tanker in. Okay, let's just pause and think about these conditions for a second. You are flying a heavy aircraft just 150 feet off the ground. You're right on the edge of its stall speed. And you're inside a violent, totally unpredictable storm. I mean, it's an insane environment to begin with, so what is it about the exact moment of the drop that makes it the most perilous part of the entire mission?
Well, it's this perfect storm of factors all hitting at the exact same time. First, pilots call this flying profile the dead man's curve. You're so low and so slow that if an engine fails, you have zero altitude or speed to recover.
At the same time, you've got asymmetric gusts that can hit one wing harder than the other, trying to roll the plane over. Visibility is practically zero, and then you have the drop itself, instantly shedding 27,000 pounds of weight.
This quote from a pilot just says it all. The second that weight is gone, the entire physics of the aircraft change completely. All of a sudden, it has a massive surplus of lift and power. The plane literally wants to leap upwards, and the pilot has to physically fight the controls, pushing the nose down just to maintain control mere feet above the trees, all while still being tossed around inside the storm.
But the mission is not over. The retardant is out, but the C-130 is still deep inside that firestorm. And now comes the second most dangerous part of the flight, getting out while the storm starts to fall apart around you.
The escape is every bit as dangerous as the approach. As that firestorm's updraft starts to weaken, the whole structure begins to collapse on itself. This creates huge downdrafts that can literally push the plane straight into the ground. You get sudden wind reversals, causing extreme turbulence, and there's a constant risk of the engine sucking in smoke and embers, which could cause them to flame out. The escape climb is where these pilots really earn their pay.
So with all this risk, with this incredible engineering and skill, you've got to ask the question, why? What is the ultimate goal of flying through a firestorm?
And here's the key thing to get. The MAFFS mission isn't about putting out the fire directly. You simply can't put out a blaze this big from the air. The goal is all about strategy. They're dropping that retardant in front of the fire's path to create a chemical fire break. They're literally drawing a line in the sand that the fire can't easily cross, which gives the firefighters on the ground a safe boundary to work from and ultimately protects homes, towns, and lives.
And just to give you some perspective on how specialized this is, it's incredibly rare. Across the entire U.S. Air Force, with its huge fleet of C-130s, there are only 4 units, 1 in the Reserve and 3 in the Air National Guard, that are qualified to do this mission. 4. That's it. It's a tiny, elite community of aviators and maintainers.
So when you boil it all down, the MAFFS mission is really this perfect testament to the relationship between technology and the human spirit. It proves that even when you're facing nature's most destructive power, aviation can fight back, not with brute force, but with brilliant engineering, relentless training, and an extraordinary amount of pure courage.